It all started in 1934 when the Queen was just 8 years old. At this point, she wasn't the Queen yet, nor was she even supposed to become the Queen until her uncle abdicated 2 years later. So it was really quite a peculiar choice for Canada to put her on their $20 bill. Unfortunately, I don't have a real one to show you, as today they tend to sell for several £1,000s. And then when her grandfather, King George V, died, and her uncle abdicated after less than a year of being king, her father became King George VI, suddenly placing Elizabeth directly in line to the crown. Which brings us to 1951 and the Queen's second portrait to be used on a banknote, once again a Canadian one. So much has happened between these first two portraits. She's gone from an 8-year-old child to a woman who's lost her grandfather, lived through the Second World War, got married and had 2 children, and is now losing her father to lung cancer at just 25 years of age. And then in 1952 her father died and Elizabeth took the crown. She's seen wearing it for the first time on the Hong Kong dollar, amongst other currencies released that year. Her coronation followed in 1953 and was marked by her first appearance on a British coin, the shilling. She's shown with her hair tied up, youthful and optimistic, a portrait intended to represent a sort of new start for the country after the Second World War. In 1956, she posed for a portrait used on the British £1 note, aged 30, although rather bizarrely this banknote wasn't issued for another 15 years. In the meantime, the Queen's first appearance on a UK note chronologically came in 1960, the year that saw the birth of her third child, Prince Andrew, now aged 34. Prince Edward, her fourth and final child, followed in 1964, and the Queen can be seen then on the Australian dollar, having been Queen for 12 years now and 38 years old. And this is where things start to slow down a bit, with a relatively uneventful decade ahead. The portrait used on our coins was updated to mark the introduction of the new decimal system in 1968, and it's not impossible to find this portrait in your change today. In 1977, the Queen celebrated her Silver Jubilee, 25 years on the throne, and appeared on the Eastern Caribbean dollar. This was also the year that she became a grandmother for the first time, aged 51. Prince Charles married Diana 4 years later in 1981, and together they had Prince William the following year, and then Prince Harry 2 years after that in 1984. The Queen's portrait from this year can be seen on a number of currencies, including the Canadian dollar and the Australian dollar, a portrait that remains in use on Australia's futuristic banknotes of today. And the next year, aged 59, she posed for the portrait that we use on our British banknotes today, as well as for another British coin. She'd now reigned for a third of a century, was a mother and a grandmother, and opinion of the royal family was at an all-time high. She's even sort of smiling on the New Zealand dollar from that time. But everything bad just seemed to happen at once in 1992. First of all, Prince Andrew and Princess Anne both split from their spouses, and then an all-telling biography detailing Charles and Diana's unhappy marriage was published, followed by tapes revealing Charles's affair. The couple then separated later that year. And to top it all off, there was a catastrophic fire at Windsor Castle, leading to extensive damage. The Fiji $2 note sees the Queen aged 66, and oblivious to what that year would entail. She even went as far as to call 1992 her Annus Horribilis, Latin for horrible year. And things only seemed to get worse when in 1996, Charles and Diana officially divorced, and a year later, Princess Diana died in a car crash. At 72 came her fourth British Queen portrait in 1998. And then her last portrait of the millennium in 1999, used on another Fiji $2 bill. 2002 was yet another bad year for the Queen. Although she celebrated her Golden Jubilee, 50 years on the throne, now 76, her only sibling, Princess Margaret, died in February, followed by her mother in March, leaving Queen and country in mourning. Once again, things got relatively uneventful here, but I'm sure it came as a welcome relief for the Queen. From here onwards, it would just be weddings and great-grandchildren. In 2005, Prince Charles married Camilla in a low-key ceremony. And then in 2011, Prince William married Kate Middleton in a more traditional royal wedding, and the Queen featured on both the New Zealand and Canadian $20 notes, now 85. In 2012, she celebrated her Diamond Jubilee, 60 years of being Queen. And a year later, her great-grandchild and future king, Prince George, was born, followed by Princess Charlotte in 2015. Which brings us to her most recent portrait, seen on the British coins of today, 89 years old. And that's pretty much it for the time being. 2018 saw 2 more royal weddings and another great-grandchild, but no new banknotes. And at 92, hopefully there's still a few more to go. Regardless, the Queen is incredibly unique to have had her life documented in such a thorough and wonderful way.